You're listening to episode 17 of the Backspace podcast. I'm Nelson, your temporary host, and joining me tonight is Brian and Spencer. So, I may have made a huge mistake, or probably the best decision of my life.
Okay.
Goat Simulator.
You bought it.
Oh, yeah?
I bought it.
How is it?
I don't know yet. I've been kind of just waiting. I don't know why. Anticipation.
There seems to be two very disparate opinions on this thing. There seems to be two camps on this game. One is people who are not afraid of a little whimsy in their game, and other people who are saying that this is not a game. It's just basically a physics sandbox with a goat.
I'm kind of either mind. I think that's a game where I would probably have to have maybe one glass of whiskey in me before I actually appreciated the brilliance that is Goat Simulator. But I'm calling it now, man. 2014, you're the goat.
Maybe. I look at this and I'm like, this is a game that is embracing bugs as a feature, and I think that's kind of cool. It seems like they're like unabashedly like, we're not going to fix any bugs unless their game crashes, because bugs are funny when it comes to physics games, and I kind of dig that.
I watched a quick little playthrough of it, and just, it was bug central, but hilarious bugs. Like, because it's a physics engine, so all of a sudden, like, freaking out like goat, and oh god, it was fucking hilarious.
Right.
That's rife for a lot of hilarious Let's Plays with like two people, someone being the color commentary or something.
It looks like a lot of fun, but I don't know what kind of longevity it's going to have, really.
Yeah, it looks really stupid, and
it seems like the kind of thing you'd pick up and play for a couple hours and be like, "Yep, I've done that now, so I can move on to something else."
Yeah,
but it was $10.
Yeah. See, actually, that's what's keeping me from buying it. If this was a $5 game, I probably would have bought it on impulse, but $10 is just above my I don't give a fuck threshold. And I'd probably have fun with it for a short period of time, but I really like stupid shit, so I probably would enjoy it, but not for $10. I'll wait till it's on sale, pick it up, have a laugh, and be done with it.
How fucking spoiled are we by Steam at this point? I mean, seriously, how fucking spoiled are we by Steam?
Pretty fucking
like spoiled. It's getting ridiculous. Like it's like $12 for a AAA title that released like 2 months ago. Yeah, I'll wait till it gets to $7.50.
Hey, speaking of which, Ace Combat Assault Horizon is on for $7 right now, and it's still not worth it.
I saw that one and I thought of you, Spencer. I was like, I wonder, is this one of those Ace Combat games that's actually worth having? But I don't know. The Ace Combat games are just a little silly. I mean, those kind of flight games that sort of aspire to be like flight simulators and give you like a plane with like 90 air-to-air missiles on it just always kind of break the immersion for me.
Oh yeah, it's real dumb. That whole series is pretty dumb, but this game is like the bad one in the series, so.
Oh god.
Yeah. It tries to be Call of Duty. It's like America versus Russia.
But like $10, it's not that bad. I'm thinking I've spent more on lunch, so
yeah. When you really rationalize it, it's like you go to like 7-Eleven and buy some snacks, and you spend like $12 or $15, and it's like I could have had a video game for that.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like you could choose like diabetes, video game.
I choose diabetes.
It's all about the diabetes.
In this case, the video game's the healthier choice.
Is it though?
Take that, Michelle Obama.
But I'm probably gonna do like that's why I didn't play it yet, because I want to record my kind of initial impressions of the game blindly. And it could go either really good or it could go really bad. I'm voting probably closer to the bad end of it, but
it should be a laugh regardless.
There's a tenor. It's a thing that happened. Stay tuned for the video.
Yeah. Cool.
You been playing anything else? Or I guess, have you been playing anything?
Oh yeah.
You haven't been playing Goat Simulator.
Because I ended up pulling the trigger on Batman Arkham Origins, I figured I'd start from scratch and start out with Asylum. So I played a bit of that, I didn't really get all that far in the game, because Broforce. Been playing a lot of Broforce, Luftrausers, I've been giving Spelunky more of an effort. The thing I find weird about Spelunky, or the issue I have with Spelunky, is the fact that, at least in Rogue Legacy, which is hard as fuck, as you're getting through, you're slowly getting upgrades, which makes the game almost easier-ish. But with Spelunky, you always start out from scratch.
Yes, Spelunky's much more of a roguelike in that sense, or it's much more roguelike-like in that sense. Rogue Legacy, I actually kind of find the name annoying because the fact of the matter is, like, you will finish that game if you put enough time into it because you'll continually be earning upgrades. You know, it's like, I think that's, for a lot of people, a much more palatable way to play a game because you're always making some progress. You're not constantly resetting to ground 1 or ground 0, but, yeah,
Spelunky's been,
well,
I'm getting slowly better at it.
You can open up shortcuts, so I guess, I mean, that would give you, all you're interested in is getting through the game, then, you know, that would give you some kind of a heads up.
I haven't even gotten out of the mines.
Yeah, nobody plays it that way, so, I mean, nobody uses the shortcuts because all of the achievements are disabled when you do that, so.
Yeah, I've gotten to 1-3, and then it was just like a fucking unfortunate event of ping-pong bullshit madness before I died on spikes. It's always the fucking spikes.
I've had deaths in that game where I have no idea how I died. Like, something just happens, and things just start exploding, and I wind up dead, and I have no idea what just happened.
The weird thing is, I got shot by a shopkeeper, and it just, like, catapulted me around the level, like, ding, 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 spikes.
Oh, yeah.
Always the spikes.
Yeah, there's some serious physics on those shotgun blasts. You gotta be real careful.
And the shotgun blast didn't kill me! That's the fucked up part!
Yeah, they do about 6 damage, so if you had more than that, then you'd live through it. But
I don't know how I lived. I had 4 health, and he got me down to 1. So I guess he just winged me or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it depends on how many pellets hit you or something like that. It's really crazy.
But yeah, that's all I've been playing, and Goat Simulator, that's gonna happen soon. Probably with whiskey. Almost definitely with whiskey.
Get a few shots in you.
Loosen me up.
Get properly prepared to simulate goats.
Gotta get lubricated.
What have you been playing, Spencer?
Well, that new Kerbal Space Program update came out.
Ooh, I saw
Asteroid Redirect, or
yeah, the Asteroid Redirect mission, which was developed in conjunction with NASA.
Yeah,
and it's pretty interesting. It introduces, well, asteroids that are on a near Kerbin. Like it introduces a bunch of asteroids that you could track individually, and all of them are on a course that will take them somewhat close to Kerbin.
Okay.
But most of them aren't in orbit in Kerbin. They're orbiting the sun. So you have to, the idea is you can fly out to them, you can disembark, or you can EVA, get close to them, get some surface samples, and take them back for delicious science. Or if you're feeling ambitious, you can use some of the new parts, like this claw attachment, to grab it with your spacecraft and then try to redirect it into an orbit around Kerbin, or maybe you want to crash it into another planet just because you can. It's pretty cool. And it also introduces a whole bunch of new boosters. So one of the things this game never had was a very large size booster. So it tended to be that when you wanted to lift a large payload into orbit, you had to create these elaborate sort of asparagus stock style rockets. Now they've got boosters based off of NASA's proposed SLS system, the Space Launch System, and they're just colossal. Like, they are massive. They make the the old orange tanks, which were the biggest tanks in the game, look just tiny by comparison. So it makes lifting huge payloads into orbit much, much easier. And as a result, it's actually changed the way I play. I've uninstalled almost all the mods I used, and now my list of mods is just things that beautify the game, like the one that adds clouds, and things like deadly reentry, which make it so that reentry has consequences. Because
I'm sure Jeb loves that.
It's the default settings for deadly reentry are pretty tame. Like, you have to, I mean, as long as you have a heat shield and you don't do something crazy like try to aero brake at interplanetary velocities, you'll most likely survive, but you can kill your Kerbals now with G-forces with that mod installed. So you have to be a little bit careful about how you maneuver your ships.
Wait. Does it show on their character portraits when you're killing them with G-force, like their faces get all stretchy, and just like.
No, unfortunately, it just blanks to a static
awesome.
screen.
Aww.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of cool if their faces like ripped off or something. Because I'm assuming Kerbal skulls look hilarious.
It might take away their G rating or whatever. I don't think that game's actually rated. But so yeah, I've been playing a lot of that, and it's this game. It's seriously, it's like the gift that keeps on giving. I'll forget about it, and then a new update will come out, and the next thing I know, I've got another 50 or 60 hours put into it, and I don't think I've gotten this much replayability out of anything ever.
Wow.
Because I mean, I bought this game ages ago, before it was even on Steam. Yeah. I mean, it was very cheap back then.
You're an early adopter.
Yeah, and every update seems to be pretty significant. Like there hasn't been. Yeah, this was back in 2011 that I bought it, and or near the end of 2011, and it just keeps getting better and better. It's got to be like the darling of the early access model.
Yeah, no kidding.
I just think it's awesome that they, worked with NASA on this. Like it's kind of a NASA thumbed up or NASA stamp of approval. Like DLC for the game, basically.
Yeah, and it's free.
I would think from their point of view, I would think that they'd want to encourage as many people, like, get kids interested in this kind of stuff, get them, stimulate young minds and get them thinking about careers at NASA, but down the road.
Oh, dude, I'd love to work at NASA. I wouldn't know what I'd be qualified for there. Maybe to mop the floors, but still, I would kill to work at NASA.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Brian, though, because they do have a Kerbal.edu program.
Oh,
so
yeah?
they're trying to get this into schools and try to spark that kind of interest in young people. And I think it's great. I think we need more people with like aerospace and engineering degrees.
Especially women.
Got to get back up there eventually, right?
Yeah.
We got to get back into space eventually. I mean, we can't stay down here for the whole, for however long we're going to be around.
And we can't keep piggybacking off the Russians. I mean, at the end of the day, we're paying them $70-something million a seat to get up to the ISS because the United States does not, or United States, Europe, basically the whole Western world, we don't have a human-rated launch system at this point ever since the shuttle went away. So, until the SLS gets human-rated, I mean, they need to launch one first, but we're quite a few years away from having manned spaceflight capability again. So,
no, sorry, I was just going to say, there was a very famous Carl Sagan quote about this, where he said something about like the cosmos is probably littered with the ancient ruins of civilizations that made the very sensible decision not to invest in space travel.
Very true.
I can't remember the full quote, but it's something along those lines.
Nice.
The cosmos is littered with the ancient ruins of civilizations that decided not to make the romantic leap into space travel, and they're explored by the civilizations that did, or something along those lines.
Speaking of Sagan, have you guys been watching the new Cosmos?
I hear it's amazing.
I really want to see that.
It's good. Yeah, I would check it out. It's
Neil deGrasse fucking Tyson, man.
He's like a bit of that whatchamacallit, the evolution fiasco they were having with that thing.
There's a fiasco around Cosmos?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, they mentioned the theory of evolution, and a bunch of creationists got very upset about that. It's like, it's a science program, and they said it was a theory. I don't really see what the problem is.
Well, actually, he went on to say that theory, like the thing is that creationists use the term theory incorrectly. Theory means it's been scientifically fucking tested, and that there's it hasn't been disproved yet. Whereas it seems like the flat earthers like to use theory in place of hypothesis, which is we say something and prove me wrong, which is,
Yeah, exactly. So there was a bit of foo-for-ah on that, but we're kind of getting off topic here anyway.
Yeah, you're never going to make the flat earthers happy.
You been playing anything else, Spencer?
Not really. I picked up FTL. There was an update, or I didn't pick it up. I picked up FTL again. They pushed out an update with a whole bunch of new content, and
FTL.
Yeah, I've been playing that a little bit.
But they made it mobile. They made like iPad, Android tablet version FTL. Yeah.
Yeah, well, mobile does not always equate to bad.
Yeah,
I mean,
know.
most of the time, yes, but this is an established PC franchise that just made a mobile version. This isn't a mobile port, so
Do you have
you
to
don't have
pay
to
a
worry about
buck or wait 2 hours to jump to the next?
that. No, it's none of that shit.
Okay.
Oh,
It's just
God.
they know everybody likes FTL already. From what I heard, they made some very, very, very wise decisions with regards to the interface that made it actually a lot easier to play on the iOS.
Huh.
Hmm.
So yeah, I've heard good things about the mobile version of it.
Yeah, I'm shitting on it without really actually knowing much about it. So that's usually how I do.
No, it's a valid reaction from anybody who actually calls themselves a gamer. I'm not going to begrudge you that, but I'm just saying in this case it's not entirely warranted.
Nice.
Well, EA wasn't involved, so.
There we
Nope.
go. So how about you, Brian? What have you been playing?
Well, like Spencer, yeah, I picked up FTL again in the wake of the Advanced Edition launch, and
More space.
yeah, that game is still real good. And they've added a lot of really cool stuff to it now with this Advanced Edition. So, an entirely new race, a new set of encounters, a whole shitload of new weapons, 3 new subsystems. It's pretty much a new game at this point for me. I've been playing it a lot the last little while.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah, I'm finding
it's very,
myself
very,
less
very good.
frustrated by it this time around.
Yeah, I've had a few situations where I get into fights that are just annoying. There's a couple of drones now, like there's this anti-combat drone that basically makes if your ship is drone heavy, relies on drones for its offense, these things just shut you down completely. It's ridiculous.
Kind of like an EMP,
So,
but
No, well, I mean it's a drone that kills other drones, right? So if they have like 1 or 2 of these things flying around them, then there's nothing you can do to their ship with drones.
Huh.
And like I said, there are some builds that are basically drones are how you do your damage, right? That's how you get your offensive punch. And if you're relying on drones to fight in this thing, then you're pretty much screwed. It's the same way as the old defense drones used to be for missile heavy builds. Like if you had a rock ship and you saw a ship that had like an anti-missile drone flying around it, you were like, well, I'm screwed. There's nothing I can do, aside from flying away. But yeah, there are some minor frustrations for me. But the new modules and the new weapons are really cool.
but in a way, that's kind of a good thing because you with the original game, you kind of can get to the point where you just have a build that will guarantee you a win, and now they're kind of throwing stuff like that in, so you kind of have to rethink your tactics and can't go with the easy mode anymore.
Well, the thing is, like on normal mode, you don't really get enough resources to make a flexible ship. You have to kind of put your eggs into one basket. You have to kind of commit to a course of action, and a lot of times that's going to be determined by whatever you find in stores, which is all completely random, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times it feels a little bit unfair sometimes, but you adapt, you overcome. That's what the game's all about.
Yeah, the other thing, there's a few little user interface tweaks that they've made that are really, really nice, like the ability to save your crew positions and have them return to that. Or
I love that.
The showing where when you jump or when you hover over a jump point, it'll show you where you can jump to from that point. So it prevents that whole, oh shit, the enemy fleet's here and I have to jump 3 positions back to get to the exit because the UI was so bad.
Well, not to be too big of a nerd, but that was actually added in a prior update.
Oh, was it?
A couple patches back, yeah. So that one has been in for a while. But if you haven't been back to it in a while, that would seem like it was brand new. But that's been in for a little bit. But yeah, it's an amazing addition. You're not wrong.
It's newish.
Yeah, it's new to him. That's all that matters.
It's new to me and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it is real good. I finally finished. I finished Far Cry 3. Yeah, I kind of got to the end of that one.
How did the ending leave? What kind of a taste in your mouth did that ending leave?
It was an ending. By the time it was done, I was kind of like, I'm kind of over. I think the narrative, the narrative of that game had a lot more promise than they actually delivered on.
Yep.
I was expecting something more, and I don't know. It just kind of ended sort of the same way that. It kind of ended a little sort of cliched. I'm not sure how else to say that. It was a little, I don't know, sort of samey.
It felt like that game peaked in the middle, and
Yeah.
it just sort of fell apart
Yeah.
at the end there.
It seems to be
And
the
if we could
general
just-
consensus.
If we could just not have another first-person shooter game that ended with like a binary choice for endings, that would be great. Like, I'm so done with that. It's like you get to the end and then all of a sudden choose left path or right path to see which ending you get because we want to make you play this thing twice. You know, it's like whatever. I don't know. By the end of it, the choice that he makes at the end was so meaningless because I was so not involved with the character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just that, and those binary choice endings, especially when it's so inconsequential, seem really cheap because what everyone does, at least this is what I did, was immediately go on YouTube and check what the other ending was because I'm not going to play through the whole damn game again to see a slightly different cutscene that doesn't make a difference in terms of the overall story of the game.
Yeah,
it was pretty disappointing, but it was worth it. I think it was worth the money. I don't feel like I came away from that saying, "Oh, that was a waste of cash." I think I enjoyed it more than most games I played that year. So
yeah. I was a big fan of Far Cry 2, and I was expecting more story wise, just coming from Far Cry 2, because Far Cry 2 was so dark. I mean, it was just, it's like you're playing this guy who's in the middle of Africa. He's got malaria, and he's basically dying as he's going through this mission. You're picking up like conflict diamonds the whole time to like fund your illegal like back channel war effort and stuff like that. And this one, it just seems like the lighter tone was kind of at odds with itself with the kind of the lighter tone of things. And so, but yeah, I'm done with that one. So it's on to Blood Dragon next.
Can't wait to hear what you think of that one.
I've played it a little bit now, and that game, I tried to play it before, and I think I was right to kind of play Far Cry 3 first, because I know Blood Dragon's kind of a standalone game, but you really need to have kind of a basic familiarity with the mechanics that are in Far Cry 3 before you can play Blood Dragon.
I don't know. I played Blood Dragon without having played Far Cry 3, and it took a little bit of tweaking and getting used to, but I mean, I don't know. I guess I have no basis of comparison, but I had no issues with it.
Well, I had a lot less fun with it the first time I tried it, but I'm enjoying it now. So now that I know how things work, it takes that same sort of basic structure and layers in a top layer of just absolute insanity that I quite like. So
the only issue I had with it was running, because when you're running, most games you can strafe while running. This one, no.
Yeah, not this one.
It's full steam, straight line, and if you want to turn, well.
Yeah. The only problem I've had with it so far is that the cyber eye, when you're using the cyber eye, you can't shoot or do takedowns and stuff like that. And I've actually the difference between the cyber eye and the regular view sometimes is a little unclear. So I've been sneaking up to somebody and just basically kind of run right into the back of them when I'm madly hammering on the F key to take them down. But that's just me. I'm just getting familiar with it.
It's all that retro 80s glow.
Yeah. I mean, in Far Cry 3, they had a very visually distinct definition between like using your camera with the zoom ability to kind of spot guys and when you weren't using it. So I think that may be what's kind of throwing me off. But aside from that, I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Cool.
I played FTL. I played a little bit of Spelunky this weekend. I've been playing. I've put a cap on Far Cry. So
put a bullet in it.
Yep, put a bullet in the back of its head.
Or a knife.
How apropos. Yeah. Oh, man.
I'm sorry.
No, that's good.
So do you guys want to talk about news?
You guys have anything news-wise? I got something that's really exciting to me, personally.
You sound excited, so I'll let you go first.
Well, by all means, share that with us.
Have you guys read anything about this, the USB 3.1 Type-C connector?
I've seen some. I saw a screenshot of it, and it just confused me and angered me, and then I closed the browser window, so no, not really.
Okay, so you know how right now we have USB Type A, which is what you plug into your PC. Everyone's seen that before, and it's insanely frustrating because it's a symmetrical shape, but only fits in one way. So you end up like putting it in turning it over, trying it again, still doesn't work. Turn it over again, and magically it works.
Did you know that you can apply Schrodinger's theory to that? The USB and for USB-A, it's always in a quantum state because, anyway. So USB-A and then
so we have USB-A, we have B, which you see on printers and scanners a lot. You have
my microphone.
That's the kind of square one?
Yeah, the kind of square. Yeah, the kind of squarish one. Then you have Mini B, which isn't in use so much anymore, but lots of MP3 players, old Blackberries all use it, and Micro B, which you see in just about every smartphone that isn't made by Apple these days.
Shots
Now,
fired.
well, fuck
Yeah,
Apple.
yeah.
And their proprietary connectors. That's there's no excuse for it at this point. But anyway, Type C is a symmetrical connector again, but it can be inserted either way. Okay. It's intended to be used on just about every device going forward. The 3.1 standard supports up to 10 gigabytes a second.
Whoa. Okay.
And
now you got me paying attention.
yeah, but the coolest thing about this is that it's not going to be like current cables where you have like a Type A is what goes in a computer, then it's whatever other end is on the other side. The idea is that everything's going to be moving to a Type C. So you'll have the cables will not only be symmetrical in the sense that you can flip it over either direction, but both ends are the same. So instead of having to have a laptop bag full of USB cables and adapters for all the devices you travel with, you're just going to have one cable that'll do everything, hopefully.
The problem is, how long is it going to take people to start adopting those standards?
Probably pretty long.
Yeah, because all the Xboxes and all the new consoles and all the motherboards and all the phones and everybody's got to get signed on board with that one.
Now, the uptick to this is like USB 3 did not take very long to catch on at all. I think within a year we were seeing motherboards, like mainstream motherboards had USB 3 support, and add-in cards were available, a couple months after the standard was completed. Yep. So hopefully once the standard is completed, at the very least I'll be able to go out and pick up an add-in board for my PC. So that's a start.
USB 3 was kind of a backwards compatible thing. Like you could still use USB 1.0 and 2.0 devices with those, right?
That's
as long
right.
as the connectors were the same. This one is actually a fundamental structural change in the connectors. So
this one breaks physical compatibility, but the thing is you can still use adapters because the standard is backwards compatible. Okay. So you can go buy adapters to use these type of cable with your existing USB ports and devices, which is, again, physically incompatible, but as far as the actual protocol is concerned, it'll still work as long as you can make that physical compatibility work. So
then you're just going to carry around adapters.
Yeah, we're all going to end up doing that for a few years still, at least, but it's a step in the right direction.
Hopefully you can get them on Deal Extreme for like $1. Oh,
I'm sure of it. It's where I get all my cables. It's where I get all my things.
Me too.
Yeah. So that's cool. So I'm stoked. Hopefully that comes sooner than later.
Yeah.
10 gigabytes a second. What's USB 3.1 right now?
USB 3.0 is
or 3.0. Yeah, sorry.
A tenth of that, maybe.
Really?
Yeah.
I think USB 3 was getting 5 gigabits per second, so 625 megabytes.
Okay.
Which
faster than FireWire.
Yeah, slightly faster than FireWire. Yeah.
That's a pretty significant jump then.
Yeah.
It's not quite to the point where you can start expecting USB like peripherals like video cards, but one day we will have an external bus fast enough to hook up.
But it's definitely going to make it more awesome for like USB hard drives and shit because you can transfer files way quicker.
Yeah, a USB SSD would actually be a useful thing with this.
Hell yeah. So did you guys hear that Microsoft? They got cut some red tape and seems like they might have the go-ahead to excavate those ET cartridges that were buried in New Mexico.
Microsoft is?
Yeah.
What?
The article originally said Xbox, but I'm sure they meant Microsoft. I'm guessing it's like this big old PR thing, kind of like a publicity stunt where it's like, haha, we found all the old ET cartridges. Now buy an Xbox.
Huh.
Yeah, that's the thing that's happening. I don't know why.
Do we really need those? Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, why would they need to do that?
See, I'd heard there was a documentary coming out about this game and the because it's kind of half urban legend from what I understand. It's like nobody really knows exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But is Microsoft because I'd heard there was a documentary that was going to excavate this. So Microsoft is involved in that documentary, or is it a completely separate expedition?
I'm pretty sure there's some sort of involvement in there.
But I mean, I guess my question is like, is this for a documentary, or are they just doing it for like, we're Microsoft, we have so much money, we can do whatever we want?
Here we are.
Let's see.
Millions of 1980s video game cartridges. Okay. Yeah, searchers accompanied by documentary filmmakers plan to scour a New Mexico landfill in an attempt to unearth a legendary dump of millions of unwanted E.T. the Extraterrestrial video game cartridges.
Okay.
Just seems like, why would they bury them? Just, send them to the trash to get crushed or something.
Well,
but also, why the fuck would you dig them up?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the documentary. The documentary team is being led by Microsoft Xbox Entertainment Studios. Filmmakers will set out to an old El Magordo landfill. It's such a weird story because they made more of these ET cartridges than they had ever manufactured Atari 2600 systems, right?
That's right. They'd hoped that it would spur sales in the hardware.
Yeah, but that did not happen.
No, and if you've ever played that game, you know exactly why.
Yeah, it was terrible.
I actually watched a playthrough where somebody knew how to play it and actually finished the game, but explained what they were doing the entire time. And, this is what you're supposed to do, blah, 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 blah. And they finished it, and they're like, well, so that's an ending. I'm going to go shoot myself now.
Well, it was a fairly ambitious game in terms of design. I just think it was on the wrong hardware, and apparently it was really rushed as well.
Yeah, there was an article I read about this. They basically developed the game in, I think it was like 3 weeks or something like that. They basically just sat down with these people, said, we need a game for this ET thing that's coming out. It's going to be the next big thing.
And it's kind of funny because publishers haven't learned from that example. They still rush games.
Yeah. There was a bunch of weirdness with that ET thing. I remember I read the novelization. It was one of those things where you get the book through school or something like that. Like, those you put in your order for books and they give you the book. I got the ET novelization I think a couple months before the movie came out. And it was like, was it Reese's Pieces that he was eating?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in the book it was M&Ms.
Aw, fail.
And that really threw me because it was like they made a big point of how E.T. was addicted to M&Ms in the book, and then the movie came out and it was Reese's Pieces. I remember reading something about that. It was like some kind of marketing deal fell through or something like that. Yeah, it was a bunch of weird shit. But
so did you hear Amazon Game Studios is hiring like crazy, all types of game designers, most notably Portal designer Kim Swift, Splinter Cell designer Clint Hawking, and they're just picking up people like crazy right now.
Mm-hmm.
Amazon Game Studios, man. Amazon's going to be in the video games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they need to put something out for this new set-top box that they've announced, right?
Yep, the Amazon Fire TV.
Yeah. Set-top streaming box and game console.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's another Android-powered set-top box with pretty moderate hardware specification.
Dedicated GPU.
Huh. Yeah,
that's a thing.
Right,
Qualcomm Adreno 320. Woo.
Okay, yeah, little lackluster there.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it'll do better than the Ouya. The only thing is, with their set-top boxes, all the peripherals are extra. So you can get the thing. Oh, you want a controller for it? That'll be $30. Want anything else for it? That'll cost you $2.
Well, it does come. It seems like it's primarily meant to be a front end for their marketplace, kind of like the Kindle Fire tablets are. Yeah. So for streaming their video, like they have a huge. I mean, it's not so much in Canada. This is something that we'll often see these devices and be like, why the hell would you want a Chromecast? Because there's jack shit you can do with a Chromecast in Canada. And
well,
I think
you can stream Netflix with it, but
I guess that's I can do that on any other device on the planet these days, or your TV itself.
And
nowadays.
You can do it easier as well instead of the fucking Chromecast.
But the thing about the Fire is that if you're in the States, Amazon has a huge library of movies and music that you can access with the Fire devices. And if you already have this device sitting on top of your TV, paying another whatever. Like, I think it's $39 for the controller.
Yep.
Paying another $40 to open up this huge game or potentially huge game library doesn't seem like that bad a deal if you're not looking for that core gaming experience.
Right. So the gaming that they're going to be offering, this is going to be proprietary stuff that they're putting out, right? They're not going to be streaming like AAA titles or anything like that, I'm guessing.
Well, because it's Android based, you're not going to be seeing like, Far Cry or any like modern game on it. It's probably going to be mostly Android stuff.
Couldn't they theoretically offer some kind of an OnLive type service with this thing?
Theoretically, you could offer that on just about any device, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I guess the first batch of these is going to be games that you actually install on the device, or I guess is it game streaming? That's the part that I'm unclear about.
No,
it's streaming box or digital media player and micro console.
It's, by the looks of it, you're going to be installing the games on the device itself.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's basically like a tablet with an HDMI out. And
Yep. Which I can do with my tablet already, so.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's probably going to do better than the Ouya.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's cheap. It's only $100. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely within that. It's kind of like for me, I mean, these micro consoles, I kind of like the idea of it. That Vita TV, if it ever gets released in the US and Canada, looks like a pretty good purchase. For someone who plays their handhelds mostly at home, it's cheaper than paying for the Vita, which has the touchscreen and the touchpad and all the expensive parts of it.
Yeah.
The display, like all the expensive parts are gone. You just hook it up to your TV, link up a PS3 or PS4 controller, and you're off to the races. And this seems like it's kind of similar in that it's a very cheap device that will stream your media and let you play some games.
Well, that's the thing. Like, the price point is cheap enough where some people who may not necessarily need it will be like, I'll give it a shot. It's $100, whatever. And then there's other people who have Amazon as almost I wouldn't say a key part of their entertainment ecosystem, but enough people who have like a Kindle Fire or, watch Amazon movies, maybe on their computer or what have you, where they'll be able to just do it all from one tiny little gizmo. So I'm not expecting it to fall flat on its face.
No, I don't think it will either. Amazon's huge.
Exactly.
And the
is
Fire
is Amazon streaming a thing in Canada, or is that only in the States? Like, can you do that up here?
I wouldn't even know.
You can get music here, for sure. I haven't tried the movies at all.
I'm sure you can, because Google Play lets you do movies here in Canada. That's basically all you can do. So I'm almost certain Amazon does it too.
So Amazon is kind of a pay for what you want to watch thing, though, right? It's not like Netflix where you pay a subscription fee and you get access to a certain amount of content.
That's right.
Yeah.
Huh. That sucks.
Yeah.
But you might have access to, newer stuff, and unlike Netflix, where at least in Canada, you got to wait 2 years before you get access to like the end of a series or something like that.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm just reading some of the reviews on this thing, and they say that it's a little disingenuous in that it will allow you to stream things through Netflix or Hulu Plus, but it won't present those as the first option. So it'll steer you towards renting something from Amazon first, even when there's a free alternative that you're already signed in for on Netflix or Hulu, right? So that's one of the main complaints that has been leveled against this thing so far.
Yeah.
I think when people buy the Fire devices, they know what they're getting into. It's like when you buy a Kindle Fire, it's not an Android tablet. I mean, it runs on Android, but it's not Android as you know it. It's Android the OS with a completely different front end, and it's basically designed to sell you Amazon's products and services. Right. So I'd imagine that the market for this is very much the kinds of people who would buy an Amazon Kindle Fire.
Right.
So... yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting. I think we're going to see a lot more of these. I wouldn't be surprised if Apple at some point released a controller for the Apple TV and started allowing games. And I think that's going to be, I mean, that the Apple TV hasn't been a huge success at this point, but that might be what pushes it into.
I mean, and with the Xbox and this, we're kind of limping towards that thing they've been promising us for like the last 10, 12 years now, which is like one set-top box for everything, right? Kind of coming at it from different directions with the Xbox and this thing, but we're kind of heading towards that goal.
Sort of. We're marching towards that goal, but with siloed content stores.
Yeah.
So your Xbox and your PlayStation and your Amazon Fire and your Apple TV won't be able to interact with each other's stores in any meaningful way.
Right.
But they'll all have Netflix.
Yes, exactly. It's like Netflix is the grand unifying media source.
Yeah. Cool.
Windows 8 is dead. Long live Windows 8.
The start menu is coming back.
Finally.
Thank fucking God.
Oh,
I've been holding off on that for so bloody long. Like, I want to get my mom a Windows 8 computer, but at the same time, I didn't want to give her that really gimped UI because she's familiar with the start button. The start button's her jam. So I just couldn't, rationalize going to Windows 8 for her. And now, finally.
I mean, yeah, with Windows, they've been training people in certain ways to use computers for what, like 15, 20 years now. You can't just change that.
No.
It's just,
You can't
I know,
change it to something that is gesture-based when people use a fucking mouse and keyboard.
Exactly.
It's this whole notion that you're not going to give us any on-screen indicators of how to do anything and just expect us to figure it out. I mean, yes, there are nerds who are going to look online at how to do it, but I can't give a Windows 8 computer to my mom. Exactly the same thing Nelson just said, because it makes no sense. That start screen is broken.
Yeah. I know every time on my computer when I come across like a file type that I haven't opened before or something like that, and it opens up in that tablet interface, my blood pressure just shoots up. I'm just like, oh, God, stop doing that. I wish there was just like one switch where you could say, is this a tablet or is it a computer? Do you want me to act like a tablet? Do you want me to act like a computer? And I don't want you to take away my desktop every time I try to open a JPEG or a PDF or something like that. I don't want to have to go through every one of my damn file associations and make sure it's launching in a program instead of an app.
God, that sounds like such a simple solution. Why wouldn't they do that?
Yeah, just like a switch. Just flick. There you go. Now it's a PC.
Well, under the Sinofsky regime, that would have been admitting defeat. That would have been admitting that your consumer's preference means more than your ego, or matters more than your ego, because that's very much what Windows 8 was all about, was Sinofsky's ego, at least as far as I can tell, because there were so many nonsensical decisions that were made that I can't think of any other explanation.
Yeah,
I'm just really glad they're bringing it back. I mean, I occasionally have to use Windows 8 for work, and every time I use that shit, it's a fucking hunting expedition to try and figure out how to use it. And I've been in tech or in the IT industry for, 17 years. Like, why?
Yeah.
Some other improvements they're adding is there's going to be a power button. A visual, like on-screen power button, so you don't have to go into settings to shut down your computer. There is also going to be the ability to run the Metro apps in Windows.
Oh yeah, I was hearing about that.
Yeah, so they're not going to take up your, and this is a huge complaint for anyone. Like I use Windows 8 on my work computer, and it's a dual monitor setup. Like I have two 22-inch screens, and every time that fucking thing decides it's going to take up everything I'm doing on just one of my screens, because why not? It'll launch one of these Metro apps. It uses only one of my screens and it takes up the whole damn thing, eclipsing everything that was behind it, getting rid of my taskbar, getting rid of everything. It just completely disrupts the flow of your work when you're used to working on a real computer, not, a toy for a child. And so they're finally getting rid of that. These things are going to run in Windows. Even when they're running, you're going to be able to have the taskbar showing underneath, so you can quickly flip to a real application, not like a baby application.
Yay.
And it's starting to. It sounds like they're finally listening.
Wow,
for once,
it's good to know that they can learn.
I mean, Sony's listening to their users. Go figure. Microsoft is finally like, okay, fine, we'll listen to you. Just this once, though.
Might have some ideas. We should probably listen.
I think a lot of the backlash came from the fact that no businesses are adopting Windows 8. We've all been saying the same thing. Like IT professionals across the board have been saying, we're not going to retrain our users to use this. So fix your fucking product, or we're going to use Windows 7 for another 10 years, just like we did with XP.
Yeah.
And I don't think they want a repeat of that situation. I think they want to give people a reason to pay for software assurance, so that you're getting the newest version of Windows every time it's released without having to shell out for a whole new volume license.
I can imagine that must have cut into their profits pretty deep too. Like corporations not signing up for new volume licenses for Windows 8 and stuff like that. Ugh.
Yeah. And I mean, the fact that their biggest partners like Dell and HP, all their business machines still ship with Windows 7. That's a black eye in terms of PR. When your product is not trusted enough by businesses, that the business SKUs will ship with it. It's, yeah. You know what, though? They got a new CEO. It's a chance for them to admit that maybe they weren't on the right track with this and start building those bridges again. So we'll see
That
what
last
happens.
guy was an asshole. I'm going to fix it.
Yeah, he hasn't gone quite that far as to say it, but
It's undertones.
That's the implicit message, yeah.
yeah, it's like, well, we're willing to learn from our mistakes, or we're willing to listen. That's a great thing to hear from a company that big.
Yeah, for sure.
Topic of the day.
Topic of a week, even.
Day, week, month of the week.
So what we were going to talk about this week, I believe, was game collecting.
Collecting or collecting of gaming-related
gaming
things.
Collectibles, yeah.
Sure. Anywhere
I mean,
from like games to like all the other crap that they release.
Well, like I think the easiest one to start with is like collector's editions, because those are huge. You know, you see many games coming out these days have pre-order bonuses, or you pay a little bit more and you can get a collector's edition, which comes with some nice physical, you know, either an art book or a little statuette, or maybe, who knows? There's been some crazy ones out there. But have you guys bought into this at all? Like, is this a thing for you guys? Or
I haven't bought a collector's edition since Fallout 3.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a while. Fallout 3 and Dragon Age, the original Dragon Age, I think are the last collector's editions that I bought. And that's I'm talking about, when I'm talking collector's editions here, I mean like things that you have to pay more for, not just some half-assed, you bought it in the first week, so here's a collector's edition stamp on it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Digital collector's editions, are we counting those as collector's editions? Because
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Like, getting a digital soundtrack isn't.
you get like MP3s in a folder and a digital art book or something like that. I never crack that shit. I never even look at it.
That stuff's just bullshit.
Yeah. The last honest to God collector's edition that I bought, I guess, would probably be Fallout 3. I mean, I'm not really a big adopter of these things. I don't keep, you know, a whole line of vagina repellent shit on my shelves at home. You know, I mean, that shit, you may look at it and think, wow, that's cool. But then, like, a couple months down the road, you're like, I am such a man-child.
You haven't seen my apartment, have you?
Like, I remember when I bought the Blu-ray for the original the reboot, the Star Trek movie, I had the choice to buy it in a nice steelbook container, or I could buy it in like, the discs come housed in like the saucer section of a plastic model USS Enterprise, right?
That actually sounds pretty awesome.
And I bought that one, and every time I look at it up on the shelf, standing by itself, you know, with with none of the other, you know, away from all the other discs, I always forget the fucking thing actually holds the discs for Star Trek. You know, it's like, I can watch Star Trek. Well, you know, it's not on my shelf with my other movies, so I always forget about it.
One of these
and I look at that thing.
It's not like the other.
Yeah, I look at that thing and I'm like, I'm such a child. It's just so I might be the wrong guy to talk to about this. But yeah, I haven't done a lot of gaming special editions. The Fallout one I had to get because it came with a lunchbox and a Pip.
Yeah, I do remember that.
And a Pip-Boy. So
did it come with Nuka-Cola caps as well? Or was that New Vegas?
It might have been New
that
Vegas.
Would be so awesome.
Yeah, but I got a Pip-Boy bobblehead and a Vault Boy bobblehead. That's right, and a post-apocalyptic lunchbox.
That's pretty.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I mean, that trumps my collectibles.
Which are?
Okay, so Adventure Time, it was a thing I enjoyed for a while, and then I'm so over it. But anyway, when the 3DS version was announced, or game was announced, the Hey Ice King, Why'd You Steal Our Garbage, it came in a special edition. I mean, I could have paid $10 less and got a normal copy, but I figured I had to spring for the special edition, because it came in a steel case, or steel series, whatever you want to call those. It also had the stylus of Finn's sword, which was pretty awesome. And let's see what else. And a few other things, but in retrospect, it just sits in a drawer now. Or it could be sitting proudly on a shelf with all my other shit, but yeah, it's drawer fodder. And the only other one I bought was Assassin's Creed 3, when they had a quote-unquote special edition. Wasn't the Ultra Collector's Edition? That came with like a statue or figurine of Connor and stuff like that. Mine just came with a SteelSeries case, and I actually got like an Assassin's Creed comic book with it. But once I got to that point, I was actually debating on whether or not I wanted to go for the more expensive one for the statue of Connor. And in the back of my head, it was just screaming, dude, what are you going to do with it? It's just going to sit on a shelf, collect dust, or end up in a box somewhere. Just get the cheaper one.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much where it ended for me.
I game because I want to play games. I mean, the other stuff is kind of cool for 5 minutes, but I don't really feel any desire to pay like an extra $10-$20 for it, whatever they charge for the collector's editions these days. So.
And who has room for that crap nowadays?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
But what about you, Spencer?
It really depends it really depends what I'm buying. I really like companies like Atlas who do, they're not collector's editions, but if you buy it, and they're not any more expensive, but if you buy the first printing of an Atlas game, it usually comes in a slightly larger box with a soundtrack CD.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoy those because you're not paying any more for it. And I find cardboard boxes, as opposed to like plastic keep cases, just feel like a little bit more of a premium product.
Yeah,
right.
I really enjoy
resale
those.
value later on down the road.
Well, that's the other thing too. Yeah, Atlas games, their first prints are usually fairly limited. So, if you manage to get something like I have the first printing of Radiant Historia, which doubled in price overnight, it seemed, because that game was impossible to find after launch. They reprinted it down the road, which lowered the value of all of them, but the original ones with the box and the soundtrack still go for a pretty decent penny. And they did the same thing with Shin Megami Tensei 4, is you didn't have to pay any more money, but you got this nice big box with an art book and a strategy guide, and I thought that was a great... Like, that game is a little more expensive than the average 3DS game anyway, but getting the extra stuff for that with it just seemed like a no-brainer. All you had to do was buy it in the initial production period, and you got the bonus.
Yeah. Some of the art books are actually pretty cool. I'll give them that.
Yeah, I'm not so much into statuettes. I don't have any room for those. When Bravely Default was released here, the collector's edition, which was $10 more, came with this gorgeous art book and in a very nice box with a deck of AR cards. I sprung for that one, and it looks quite nice on a shelf. It's a very classy looking box.
Right.
And but the European version came with a statuette that was of dubious quality, which there's no way I would have spent any more money for that. Just for the fact that it would have taken up a huge amount of space. Whereas like I have a fairly large shelf of games, but no room for the statues.
But you also have a girlfriend that appreciates the games that you do collect, so.
Yeah, you know what? I'll be honest. I've never had a girl like I have one section of my apartment that is pretty vagina repelling. It's a big shelf full of, boxes of Super Nintendo games and PlayStation games. And it's a big box of games dating back to, the NES. And,
but every time I come over, I fucking drool and fawn over those and just stare at them longingly. So.
But it's never been a problem. Like I've never brought a girl over and had her be like, "Oh, you're a dork." It's like, yeah, I got a 6-pack, so who gives a fuck, right? I mean,
you could just hear the vagina clamping shut.
But yeah, it's never been an issue. I mean, no. But at the same time, I think I keep it fairly tidy, and it's
you don't have like basically the majority of your apartment covered with collectibles and like Japanese waifu dolls and
there's no posters of scantily
and
clad anime girls anywhere in my apartment.
Because most women, if they walked into your place and saw that, they'd be like, yeah, so I just forgot about something outside. I got a thing.
Yeah, I gotta go now. No, it's And I think a lot of the stuff that I have, people tend to see it and they remember stuff from their childhood. They're like, "Holy crap, you have a box for Mario Brothers 3? That's crazy." But I mean, it's funny too because like I enjoy collecting. I mean, I collect old games, and yet most of the time when it comes to new stuff, I tend to just not give a shit about the collector's editions. More often than not with PC games, I end up just buying on Steam.
Yep.
Anyway,
I'm starting to think that digital delivery is going to be the almost de facto way to do it nowadays.
Yeah, I think we're going to have one more generation of physical copies, and then after that, it's going to be all just buying from whatever store is attached to whatever system.
Yeah, that was kind of the big turning point for me in kind of like deciding whether or not I was going to collect games or not. I think back in the original Xbox days, I got into like I modded my Xbox and I was downloading a bunch of stuff, and it kind of flipped a switch in my head. It was like, these are just pieces of information. This isn't actually a physical product anymore. Like when you had cartridges with like the Genesis and the Super NES and stuff like that, there was kind of a sense of value. There was something tangible. But when I looked at like an Xbox disc and just realized that I could go out on the internet and download that and have pretty much the same experience, it kind of switched something off in me almost. It was like I didn't really feel the desire to kind of pursue those kinds of things anymore.
You could have the game in the time it takes to download, and you didn't even have to put on pants or leave the house.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't have to spend any of your money on it. No, I don't pirate anymore. I never, all the games I have now are legit, and because I did kind of want to get back to actually feeling some kind of like a yearning for that kind of stuff again. And I think I understand what Spencer means about having like the classic stuff, right? Like the Super Nintendo and the Genesis games and stuff like that. Having a well curated collection of those these days is something that you can actually be proud of. It's like an achievement to kind of pick up that kind of stuff and fill out your collection the way you want it to be. But with the current stuff, like the Steam stuff and stuff like that, there's not really so much collecting going on there. Not in the way that I'm sort of used to it. And I'm coming from a background of being like a comic book collector and a war gamer and stuff like that. So I've done some pretty serious collecting in my time.
Yeah. Well, you also have a fairly extensive movie collection, right?
Yeah, but again, I mean, things like Netflix and stuff like that have really rendered that. Like, I used to love going into Future Shop and dropping like $100 on just DVDs of movies that I'd heard were good, that I'd never seen before and stuff like that, right? But nowadays, you just don't do that as much because that kind of stuff is so much more readily available to you. It kind of kills the collection side of things. I mean, maybe there are people out there who still collect like VHS tapes and stuff like that, or maybe there'll be a DVD, like an actual DVD collection kind of subculture. I doubt it because those things were so mass produced.
Mm-hmm.
You know who collects VHS tapes nowadays? Fucking hipsters. That's who.
I guess that's true. Yeah. Yeah, but it's the way the medium is kind of going. I think it's getting more and more difficult to kind of get that same kind of thrill out of collecting this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like with PC games, I gave up on the idea of buying those in store a long time ago. As soon as they started introducing one-time use CD keys, you register this and you just burn that key. So the box copy you have isn't really the game itself. I mean, the only thing of value in there is that license key anyway.
Yeah. You open it up and you see that piece of paper and that's all you need for the game, right?
Yeah.
And that was the other thing.
Doesn't really matter.
PC games were not really the easiest to find in store in general. Yeah. I've always found, like, back in the old days, like, we're talking, 90s. Sure, there were, like, anytime you went to a computer store, they had computer games in those stores. But if you went to, like, a video game store, not much of a selection for PC games. Even, like, EB Games and shit like that. Not really all that much on the PC wall. It was almost all console.
Yeah, I remember going to London Drugs to buy PC games back in the day.
You still can, and they're cheap.
Still can. But that's something that's definitely changed the way I purchase. I tend to, like, if I'm going to buy a boxed copy of a game, I want it to work 20 years from now. I don't want it to be bound to some online service that might not be here. Because that's one thing. Like, I can pick up I've got a whole drawer full of Super Nintendo games, and I can pick up any one of those at any time, plunk them in a system, and play it. And it's just as good as it was 20 years ago.
Well, I mean, there's going to be there's going to come a time when you're not going to be able to play Super Nintendo games anymore. I mean, they're not making the consoles anymore, and they are eventually going to fail at some point, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is also a counter argument as well, because a lot of going on that theory, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, I'd be like, I really want to play Borderlands 2. I could just download a quote unquote ROM or copy of the game and just start playing it, because someone probably cracked it and made it not require online services. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, so that's true. There will come a day when there won't be any working Super Nintendos. It might not be 20 years from now, though. I mean, we still see Atari 2600s that are working great 30 years down the road. There's not a lot that fails in these systems aside from capacitors, which are easy to fix, and batteries in the cartridges, which is also a fairly easy fix. But you're right. Eventually, there will be no more CRT TVs. There will be no more Super Nintendos, no more Nintendos. At that point, we'll be forced to play via emulation. But for the time being, I feel like, at least for another generation or two of human beings, this stuff is going to be viable.
Oh, God. Imagine if they got rid of, composite inputs or RCA inputs.
Someone will make an adapter.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
HDMI to, the red, yellow, and white.
Composite upscalers. And actually, those exist. You can go and buy upscalers that not only upscale older composite video streams, like 480p video streams, into 1080p video. They also add scan lines to try to make it look a little bit more authentic. And they do it without introducing much. Well, it's a negligible amount of input lag. So
that's so rad, though.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. People use them to get around because when your TV has to scale from a 240p image, it tends to introduce a lot of input lag. Whereas if it's a native 1080p signal, it's negligible. So it's a way of getting around the problems that TV's built-in scalers have for people who want to play these old games and not be a millisecond behind their controls.
Yeah. Right. So reeling it all back, I mean, we could go to discuss, sure, PC gaming is kind of a thing that you don't really go into stores to buy it anymore. But it seems like a lot of the special editions, collector's editions, and whatnot are almost tied to console gaming. Say, for example, Titanfall. Titanfall, you can get a limited special custom super edition with a gigantic bust. Or statue, or giant statue that's bigger than most people's coffee tables. Or, say, going back to, Halo, you could get Master Chief's helmet, which actually was kind of cool, but at the same time, you couldn't really wear it.
No, it was way smaller than an actual head.
Yeah.
That was the first time I saw one of those. Yeah, I don't know. I saw one of those in a store, and I was like, that's a lot smaller than I thought it would be.
You mean I don't get to be Halo for Christmas?
I want to be Mr. Halo. Come on.
I want to be the Master Chef.
Yeah.
But do you find it's almost the collector stuff is relegated more towards consoles these days? Or almost always has been, I guess?
Yeah, I think there's probably more I think there's more of an expectation on the part of console players that the thing that they're buying is actually a physical kind of a physical item that has value, right? Mm-hmm. You go to the store, you pick up a box off a shelf and you take it to the counter. I think PC gamers have kind of been past that for a lot longer than console gamers.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have, you have the mothers going into EB Games to buy the latest, Grand Theft Auto games for their 7 or 8 year old children, and they expect to walk out of there with something. And I think the value proposition for them to just go online and enter a key code, it's a little more of a trickier sell. I don't know. I might be overthinking this, but I think console
not necessarily.
gamers. Yeah, I think you see that in the price points too. I mean, the console games, they generally tend to be, they don't go on sale as much. They don't drop as quickly as online retailers like Steam and other places do. So I think those things tend to hold their value a little more, and as such, they have a little bit of an easier time selling them kind of the collector tchotchkes that come along with this stuff.
Yeah. Well, the big argument there is that these games, when you sell a console game that has no DRM attached to it, or at least no one-time use key, there's that period of time where you can expect to get full retail from it before it hits a secondhand market. And that usually coincides with the full price period on the online stores.
Right.
And then
right.
once it's hit that secondary market, that's when you'll see the big, like once those games start hitting the used shelf on GameStop for, $5 less, that's where you start seeing the Steam sales coming in. But with Steam, they're actually earning those residuals. So knocking the price down isn't a bad thing for them. It's a way to introduce it to an audience that wouldn't have bought it or would have bought it used.
Sure.
They're still getting the money for it.
Plus, like us.
There's no inventory cost associated with electronic stuff, right? They don't have to warehouse them. They don't have to ship them. I mean, it's all basically just pure profit. If the person wasn't going to buy it at $60 and they buy it at 15, that's still money in your pocket, right?
Mm-hmm. That brings up a whole other thing, right? Is like, sometimes I look at the collection I have here, and my methodology with collection has been, buy the games I want to play. Mm-hmm. Not so much, I need to have a complete collection of this or that. It tends to be like, I'll get on kicks where I'll be like, I want to play more shoot 'em up, spaceship shooters. And I'll go out and like try to acquire copies of like R-Type and Thunder Force and games like that. But
that's not a bad methodology to use.
No, but it's like sometimes I look at emulation and I'm like, it would be a lot easier to just download every Super Nintendo game ever because it comes out to being like a gig, I think, if that even.
Oh wow!
But that's where you get to with the kind of thing. I mean, it's what's the fun in that?
That's true.
There's no challenge in that. There's no hunt. There's no thrill of the chase or anything like that. You can just go to the Pirate Bay and type in like SNES emulator and boom, there you go. I mean,
it's a lot of fun going to the thrift stores, digging through the bins and stuff like that. Just kind of skulking around all the little nooks and crannies, and you might find a rare copy of something stuffed in the underneath like the sporting equipment or something.
Yeah.
And like one time, Spencer and I were thrifting around, and I ended up finding an entire Atari 2600 system with a whole bunch of extra peripherals in a plain cardboard box that was high up on a shelf, tucked away behind some like audio equipment. I was just, just poking around. It's like, holy shit. And it's $12.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's been, I've had definitely some great finds at thrift stores. I bought my DS at a thrift store for $30, and this was when the DS was still on sale.
Oh, that was your clunker?
Just the DS Lite I had back in the day.
Oh,
I picked that thing up for a song, and that was when those things were on the shelves still for, $120, $130.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's right. When you find something rare at a thrift store or you get a great deal, trading with someone online, there's a great amount of satisfaction that comes from that. When I got Earthbound, it was an online trade, and I was super happy because I've been looking for that game forever, but I wasn't willing to just plunk down $120 on eBay for it.
Wait, you actually have a proper copy of it now?
Oh yeah, I have an Earthbound cartridge.
Dude, nice.
Yeah.
Congrats.
It's funny that game is not as uncommon as people seem to pin it as. It's a fairly common game. It's just really sought after.
Yeah.
I have rarer games. It's just that one is one that, like my copy of R-Type Delta, I prize much more than my copy of Earthbound because it's a much less common game. It just doesn't command the price that Earthbound does.
Yeah.
Right. Do you guys have any jewels of your collection that you want to talk about, or
some jewels?
Yeah. What's the one thing that you can point at, and what has pride of place on your shelf?
Or what's the furthest you've gone to try and get like that one crazy rare copy of something?
Earthbound was my longest hunt, I think. I spent a long time going around on forums, offering up trades, trying to find someone who would eventually trade for it. And so I think that one I probably put the most effort into. I don't know what my most prized... To be honest, actually, my most prized possession is my Squaresoft games from when I was a kid. I still have them in their original boxes, and they are fantastic. Like, I still have Secret of Mana and Final Fantasy II, Final Fantasy III. Basically, the Super Nintendo collection from when I was a kid. I'm just super happy that I kept the boxes and manuals and everything. I actually like these so much that my shelving, my boxed SNES games on shelf aren't alphabetized. there's my childhood games, and there's any games I've picked up since then.
Nice.
So I think those are my prized possessions, because there's not only do I love these games and I really like the presentation and the boxes and the manuals, but there's a nostalgic collection. Like there's a link to my childhood there as well.
They have traveled with you through life.
So
Exactly.
what you're saying is you've organized them autobiographically.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. So those are probably my prized, and then it's the other side of that is the games that I pick up fairly often, which lately has been my shmups. I have a lot of shmups here, and it's great to be able to pull a copy of G Darius off the shelf, or R-Type Delta, or Thunder Force 4, and stick it into my PlayStation and play it. And there's something very those games are very pick up and play, and it's very instant gratification when you play them. So I find the ritual of like pulling them out of the jewel case, putting them in that crappy tray, and then trying to get the lid to close, and then turning the system upside down because it's skipping. There's something.
The old
there's
tricks,
something
man.
about that. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
for me, just the fact that I had the wherewithal to keep my old Sega Saturn and all the games that came with it, or that I had bought with it back when it was new, that's kind of like my almost my crown jewel in a way. It sits in a box in a closet somewhere, but just knowing that I have it, because that particular system, that was at the time where, PlayStation was your decision, or Sega Saturn. I obviously made the wrong choice, but at that point in my life, it was a system that my mom bought for me because I had been hit by a truck and was laid up at home for 7 months, something like that. And she saw that I was super bummed about being stuck at home in the middle of summer and whatnot. So she's like, I'm going to buy you a video game system. And she asked, which one should I get? And I'm like, go with the Saturn.
Get the new one.
Yeah, exactly. And I had some great times with that system, and a lot of the games that I picked up for it. I didn't get like the super rare games that everybody's would blow a load if they were able to touch a copy nowadays, but
No Panzer Dragoon Saga.
no, sadly not. I wanted it, but at that point it was kind of hard to find already. But yeah, that system has a lot of memories for me, and at the same time, I kept it. It's one of those things that it just has almost what's the word for it? Sentimental value to me. So that's why I'd go with that as the top of my list personally.
It's a good one, man. That system, those aren't easy to find these days. They weren't produced in huge numbers. The games weren't produced in huge numbers. It was never really a success. And systems that don't succeed on the market tend to be fairly sought after. I mean, the Dreamcast has a huge following now. People love that system. But there's a limited supply of them, and the Saturn's in the same boat.
The funny part is, I was looking up Saturns on eBay just for giggles, and people were flogging them for like $50. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, I'll keep it.
Yeah, hang on to it.
If it was going for like over $1,000 or like even over $500, I'd be like, at least I'd be able to get out what I put in.
Right.
But yeah, that's one of those things I'm gonna hang on to until the end of my days, I think.
Nice.
So, what about you, Brian? Got anything?
I don't know. Like I said, I've kind of stripped down over the last little while. I haven't really held on to a lot of that kind of stuff. But I guess probably the one thing that still has kind of sentimental value for me is I still have a functioning Atari Lynx.
Really?
Whoa.
Yeah, I guess that's probably the best thing that I've got.
Wow.
So, Brian, if
Yeah.
I come across Lynx games, should I get them for you? Because I do occasionally come across them, and I always turn them down because I'm like, I'm never going to be able to play this.
I've kind of got all the Lynx games that I really want to play. I can't really think of anything that I'd want to add. I went through a period where I bought a lot of those things when back when it was still a current system. So I don't know. I can't think of anything for the Lynx that I need that I don't have. Spent a lot of time playing Slime World and Chips Challenge and the Lynx port of Xenophobe was amazing. Like, it was really, really good.
Huh.
Yeah, no, I think that thing still works. I'd have to bust it out. It's been a while since and this is one of the really old like metal body Lynxes as well, like not the second generation plastic one.
Holy
This
shit.
this thing weighs a ton, and I've never run it on batteries, right? So I have no idea how many it takes. I think it takes like 8 AA's or something silly like that.
Or C cells.
No, it takes AA's, but I think you need 6 or 8. It's pretty ridiculous.
Christ.
But yeah, I'd have to dig that thing out sometime, see if I can find it. But
I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually kind of impressed by that.
That's very cool.
yeah.
I've never even seen one of I've never seen the console in person.
Really?
I've only
No.
ever seen the games. Yeah.
Holy crap. Yeah, it was way ahead of its time, that system. I mean, it was like a contemporary of the original Game Boy, and it was doing it in color, and you know, there was some pretty interesting things about that system. So
It could be played with a vertical orientation, right?
Yep.
Like weren't the
Yep.
buttons laid out?
yeah, there was a switch. You could actually hit a button on it to change it from horizontal to vertical. Yeah, you could play it either way. You could play it left or right. Like it had buttons along the top and the bottom on the one side, so you could actually flip it over and play it left-handed if you wanted.
So cool.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah, it was
you
a pretty
guys-
neat little unit.
that is cool. You should bust that out, man. I want to see that now.
Yeah, I'm gonna see. I have to see if I can dig it out. I know I got it in a box somewhere, but where it is right now is kind of escaping me.
See, that's the thing, like, it's a repeating theme. It's in a box somewhere.
Yeah,
That sums up, gaming collectibles. It's in
Yeah.
a box somewhere.
it's in my garage.
Yeah, there's quite a few that are in a box somewhere for me. So do you guys have any like holy grails, like anything that you would love to have, but maybe you just haven't come across it or you're not willing to pay the street value for?
Can't really think of anything like that. No, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it's not like collecting art or something like that. If there's something you want, you can usually find a way to get it, right? I mean, yeah, I can't think of anything really off the top of my head that'd be like that.
There was one thing I was musing about buying when I saw it, and that was the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood collector's edition. They had a Jack in the Box, but there were different kinds. Like there was the Jester and there was the Plague Doctor and stuff like that. I wanted the Plague Doctor one because he had his little syringe and stuff like that. Plus I have this weird affinity for the whole Plague Doctor style, but the Jack in the Box one, yeah, exactly. The Jack in the Box one I found was the Jester, and I was like, nah, no. If I ever run across like the Jack in the Box Plague Doctor from Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, I would, if the price point was reasonable, I would probably buy it. Maybe.
Yeah.
If I was in a good mood, maybe.
Yeah. You know what? The neat thing about that one is it doesn't take up a ton of space. It's a fairly small, well, not small, but it's like it's
the size of like
piece.
it's the size of like 4 paperback novels. So
Yeah, and it's not going to look ridiculous on a shelf if you
Exactly.
close it up. So yeah,
yeah, but that's probably the only thing I can think of that I would actually want.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't have any like particular holy grail. There's some things I would like to get but don't want to pay full price for. I would love to get the first Harvest Moon for Super Nintendo. Would like to have that. I would love to have a box and manual for my Chrono Trigger because I have the game. And while I'm not usually crazy about boxes and manuals, that's one I would like to have complete because I really like that game.
Yeah.
And other than that, there's a handful of like PS1 imports that at some point I would like to pick up, but I don't really want to pay the import price for them. So,
I had an import copy of Tekken 2 for a couple months before it actually came out over here for the PS1.
Wow.
I think I paid like $110 for that, and you had to run it on. You had to run it on the PS1 by like starting it up with an actual like licensed North American PS1 disc, and then like leaving the tray open and like hot swapping the discs when it got to a certain point in the boot up routine.
oh, you had to do the paperclip trick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
That just seems like way too much effort.
It stressed me out quite badly every time I did it, but I got to play Tekken 2 before anybody else, so.
That was $100 and some odd bucks well spent right there.
Yeah, no kidding. No
Yeah.
kidding.
Expensive bragging rights.
Never again. So, anything else we want to discuss on that topic, or have we mined that ground pretty well?
I think we just salted the earth on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, cover it in salt and throw a match on it. It's done. So what do you think? You guys want to wrap it up?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's about all I got time for tonight.
Cool. I know we should probably mention something about the website.
Something simple, like you've been listening to the Backspace. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at our Backspace and check out our website with links to all of our social media. Blah, blah, blah. Thebackspace.ca.
That sounds good. Go with that.
Well, you already did it, Spencer. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well,
Hey, you've been on. Hey, people, you've been on the internet for a while now. If you know how to use the internet, you can probably find us.
Thebackspace.ca. Hit us up. We got links to Twitter, Google Plus,
Yeah,
etc.
that's where it all is.
All that social horse shit that you kids love so much.
Somebody please send us a goddamn email. We're lonely.
Yeah, questions, comments, suggestions, anything, please.
Yep.
Just something.
We know you're out there. We know you're listening to us. We get the numbers.
We
And
see
next
downloading.
next week, we're going to bribe you with a game giveaway. So follow us.
This cake looks good.
33 minutes into this episode of Game of Thrones. Oh my god.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to watch that right after this.
Don't spoil anything.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Come on, you guys know me by now. Jesus.
Yeah, that's why I said that.
Fuck you. You're listening to episode 17 of the Backspace podcast. Mr. Janny... fuck, I screwed up already.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Internets and all the ships at sea.
I like that one better. It's hard to do when I'm laughing, you son of a bitch.
Hey,
Do it
everyone.
right.
You're listening to episode 17 of the Backspace. Here with... fuck.
See?
Yeah.
Now,
Here in studio, we have...
Mr. Danny J. can't curse. Motherfucker! I'm Nelson, acting as your temporary host, so let's fucking do this already.
You're not supposed to, but shut up.
There we go. Problem solved.
Let me guess. You're sitting
Yeah, now I
in
can't
like
hide.
the wrist position better, right?
My computer is now behind me.
Oh.
Just hold a mirror up to it.
You're not supposed to, but don't care.
You can get a Chromebook podcast from that.
But shut up.
From your bedroom.
Separate apartment.
This cake looks good. Shut
I
up.
want to be the master chef.
Yeah.
This cake looks good. Don't care.
Okay, I got enough time to watch Game of Thrones before I go to bed.
Me too.
Shut up.
What? I thought it was alright.
Yeah.
Just the in and out part.
Don't care.
Oh yeah.
The first time sliding in, it's a little awkward, and then once you're on your way out, you're just gonna make sure you grab a hold of that condom.
You're so nasty.
Oh boy. Okay. Good night.
All right.
All right.
Hey, guys.
See ya.